Hi, and welcome to this fourth part of my external environments creation tutorials. In this fourth part we'll go over the texturing of the whole scene, but first we need to finish the preparation of the scene for texturing, as we left it from the last lesson. So we need to touch up the trash bin, the plant pot, the bench, and as well some part of the fence. So let's start with the trash bin. As you can see, when you export it from UV layout, it had these sharp edges. So we can either smooth the normals, or we can just smooth it with the smooth mesh preview if we hit the 3 key on the keyboard. So now I'm just adding some support edges, so when we apply this smooth mesh preview, it doesn't go all as you saw moments ago. I'm checking if the edges are okay, the support edges. So I'm continuing using the insert edge loop tool. So adding 2 edges just on the bottom. As you can see, the outer part is a little bit indenting in the inner part. So let's add 2 more support edges on the outside. So now when we hit 3, you can see that it smooths perfectly. And you can always hit 1 to go back to the non-smoothed version. So now let's do the same with the plant pot. So select the insert edge loop tool and start creating some support edges. So I'll create 2 on the rightmost outer edge and in the inner edge, and 2 at the bottom, and another 2 inside the pot. So now if we hit 3, it smooths again nicely. So now we can probably let's insert 1 more edge inside the pot, so it's more, it doesn't look so soft now. So now we can delete this second pot and just duplicate the one that we just smoothed. So next thing we want to do is probably fix the fence. Again, when we exported it from UV layout, it had these sharp edges, but if you see, if we try to smooth it now, it goes too soft, so we need to add support edges. So now I'm going to add 2 edges at each corner. The positioning doesn't need to be perfect, but it would be nice if it's as close as possible, the same one of all the edges that you made. So I'm just continuing doing the same thing. Now I finished the top part, so I'm going to start with the bottom one. Again, the same thing, 2 edges at each edge that we need to smooth around. Again, keeping this approximately the same distance. Just finishing this, and if we hit 3, you can see that now it smooths pretty good. So I'm adding 2 at the bottom, and see now it's smoothed nicely. Probably we can just push down the vertex from the top a little bit down, so it looks more rounded at the top. So now we can let's delete all the other fence pieces and just replace it with the one that we've just smoothed. So the next thing that we need to touch up is the bench. So start with the foreground bench. As you can see, when we exported it, it had those sharp edges. So the first thing I'm going to do is separate the bench from mesh separate, so I can work on the legs separately. As if you remember, we already made the legs with support edges, so if we hit 3 on those, they'll smooth perfectly. So that's the thing that we need to do with the legs. The other thing we need to do is bevel the wood planks. So you go to edit mesh, bevel, and option box. These are the settings that I'm going to use. So width is the most important one, and the segments. So now if I go and apply to this one, you can see that it has a nice beveled edge at each corresponding edge. So now I'm going to select all the planks on the bench, and I'm going to bevel them as well. Also selecting the bottom ones, the bottom metal pieces, and just bevel them. And you can see the bench will catch the reflections much more nicely than if we had perfectly straight 90-degree edges. So now we can start texturing the scene. I'm not going to show you how I texture the whole scene because that would be too much time to put in this tutorial, and in the next one we need to finish all the rest because it's the last one. So I'm just going to show you how I texture the left foreground part that's right next to the render camera. So this is the left foreground building, the bricks, the trash bin, and the ground. I would also will get you started with all the techniques that you need to finish the rest of the scene. Next thing we need to do is create a UV snapshot so we can start texturing the building. So I select the left foreground building and go to the UV texture editor, and now I'm going to polygons, UV snapshot. Here we can create the texture that we can paint on inside Photoshop. So one important thing to notice is how big is the size of the UV snapshot. So I'm setting the size at 3K. This will give us enough texture space, and when we render it won't look pixelated or anything. So 3K for foreground stuff is okay. Later on we'll use a bigger one for the ground. So I'm not just saving it as a TIFF with color value as white. So let's hit OK. Now I've loaded it into Photoshop. You can see this is the texture. Now what we can do is to make the layer mode of the snapshot to screen. So I'm just duplicating the layer, writing the top one wireframe, the bottom one base, and the top one I'm just going to put it on screen mode. That way we can paint on the bottom one or put some other layers beneath it, and this way we always have the white lines on top of the image, so this way we can know where to paint our texture. We can always delete them or hide them. So these are the textures I'm going to use. All of the textures are from cgtextures.com. They're free to download, so you can use whatever texture you want. So the style for the houses I'm going is something like plaster finish of the house, not a brick one.